Apologies in advance if you don't like the vlogs where I just rant about autism issues, but today is a vlog where I'm going to rant about an autism issue, and this isn't even just Kev trying to fill time. It's 10 o'clock in the morning and I'm doing this sitting in the garage ranty vlog because this has annoyed me so much. As I record this, it's the day before Andy's due to start back at school. We emailed the school a couple of days ago asking for a copy of his timetable so that we could share that with him before he goes, so that we could give him an idea of what it is he's going to be doing when he gets there, because one of the things we've found has worked really well over the summer and we've been using more and more is that calendar board that you saw us get a few weeks ago, where we tell him what he's going to be doing on what day, and then within the days we then break it down into what we're going to do and when. We used it when we went to Legoland, we used it when we went to Alton Towers, we've used it for various other out and about trips over the course of the summer as well. We'll tell him, right, you're going to do this, then you'll do this for this amount of time, and then you get this as a reward, and it works really well. So we thought if we could use his school timetable and show him the highlights of that, then that would be really cool, and then show him that once he's done a full day he gets a reward at the end of it, whether it's a trip to a church or a trip to McDonald's or whatever it might end up being. So I emailed the school, I got a reply back. In fact, let me read you the reply. Hi Kevin, I hope you and the family have had a good summer. Becky, Andy's class teacher, has taken photos of Andy's timetable. I'll email them across as soon as I receive them. Becky has lots of activities planned for Andy, many church related, along with use of the sensory room and the 4D room at various times. Okay, that was at 2 o'clock yesterday, and then last night at, like, I don't know, 4 o'clock, whenever it was. So it wasn't really last night, but I didn't see the email until this morning because I'd turned the computer off by then. But last night we then got, hold on, let me move to one side. We then got this. That is his timetable for tomorrow. Now, couple of immediate things that leap out at me about that timetable. Firstly, I don't see the church on it. I acknowledge it's not really there, I've superimposed it afterwards, but I'm going to be like a weatherman and pretend it is really there. I could have used the green screen and actually pointed at it like a real... I could use the green screen and point at it like a real weatherman. I'm not going to though. But it doesn't have the church on it. Okay, that's problem number one. There's no 4D room, there's no sensory room, they're also big problems. But not only that, if we start to break this down into a little bit more detail, there's no actual incentive or reward anywhere at all on that timetable. It's just, first day back after nearly 2 years of not going to school, they're going to throw him straight into a maths lesson. A non-specific, no times, no length, no topic maths lesson. All we can say to Andy is, you're going to go to school and you're going to do some maths. We don't know what maths, we don't know how long you're going to do it for, we don't know where you're going to do it, we don't know what it's going to involve, but you're going to do some maths. And then at some point, you get a snack. The picture of the snack on there is obviously an apple and a sandwich, two things he won't eat. And to be fair, if you offered him that, he'd start retching and he'd be quite afraid if you were going to force it. The thought of you get to do maths for however long that period of time is, and then you get this punishment because we're going to force an apple and a sandwich on you. Please think about what you're putting on these things. If you're going to use pictures of a snack, use a picture of his snack. That should be a picture of salt and vinegar crisps. You know this, we've talked about this before. And then once you've done that, we're going to do some non-specific literacy. We don't know if that's going to be writing, reading, we don't know how long it's going to be for, we don't know whether it's going to involve books or computers or iPads, we don't know where it's going to be. All we know is the combination of numeracy, snack and literacy takes him all the way through to dinner time, which again, dinner time is a terrifying picture of a plate with some food on it that he won't eat. That's going to scare him as well. So far we've got a morning where, let's assume dinner is at 12 o'clock, which I think is quite an early dinner for a school, but let's say dinner's at 12 o'clock and he gets there at 9 o'clock when the school opens. So he's had a 3-hour period during which he's had a snack that he didn't want to have. I know in reality they'd give him crisps, but we're trying to talk to him about this the day before. He's looking at those pictures they've sent. It's how he processes things. So in the middle of this morning from hell that's 3 hours long, he's got to eat an apple, which makes him retch. And then either side of that, he's presumably got like an hour and a quarter of maths and an hour and a quarter of English that involves him sitting still in a chair writing things down, which he doesn't do. Let's say he makes it all the way through that horrible, horrible morning though. with no reward, because there's no reward there. He's got a lesson that he doesn't want to do, followed by a snack he doesn't want to have, followed by another lesson he doesn't want to do, followed by a dinner that he doesn't want to have. If he makes it all the way through that, then he gets to do some non-specific exercise, and when that's finished, PE. Now, I don't know if I'm just an idiot. I mean, I'm clearly not an exercise guy. I don't know the difference between exercise and PE. He certainly doesn't know the difference between exercise and PE. I don't know how to explain that to him. Any ideas would be much welcomed, but I also don't know how long that lasts for. And once he's made it through his exercise and his PE, he then gets world studies. I don't know how to explain world studies to him because I have absolutely no idea what it might involve. Are they going to look at maps? Because if they're going to look at maps, he'd love to look at maps. If that's 20 minutes on Google Maps, put that in earlier in the day and call it Google Maps, and he'll go to school just to use Google Maps because he loves Google Maps. But are they going to be looking at, I don't know, religious festivals in other cultures? Are they going to be looking at the history of the world? There's so many things that world studies could encompass, and you haven't given us a clue what it might be or how long it will last. And then we've got home. Would be quite helpful if you had a picture of the taxi and then home, because he doesn't just magically go from world studies to home. Do you understand autism at all, Autism Specialist School? If there's a step between world studies and home, you show the autistic person what the step is. How does he get from world studies to home? Because otherwise, when world studies is finished and he's not at home, he's going to panic. Because when world studies is done, he's supposed to be at home. Right, I'm done with world studies now. Hang about, I'm still at school. Why are they trying to get me in a taxi? Where am I going? What's happening? I just don't understand how, as an autism specialist school, you can think that that is an okay timetable for any kid. Never mind a kid who's been off school for nearly 2 years because he's terrified to go to school because of the anxiety that he feels about going to this place, because his anxiety and autism doesn't allow him to understand that A, it's not forever, B, there's reasons to do it. Oh, I can't believe they've sent that. I decided not to rant about the school on this channel at all this year. I thought, let's give them a clean start, give them a proper opportunity to prove that they actually do know what they're doing. And then the first thing that they do is send that. And I'm just absolutely flabbergasted. If I showed that to him, there is not a chance we will get him to school tomorrow, because there is no mention of churches, no mention of the 4D room, no mention of the sensory room, no mention of using the iPad. They're the only 4 things he wants to do when he goes to school. And you're not giving him any of them on his first day back. So straight away, it's an entire 6 or 7 hours of punishment. On top of that, it's not tailored to him at all. He has never in his life, and bearing in mind he's 13 years old, he has never in his life sat down for a lesson for an hour. He is not able to do that. That's what you've got timetabled on there. So either you don't know that, in which case you're awful, or you don't care about that, in which case you're awful. I've sent it back to them and told them they need to do better and send us an actual timetable tailored to him that has small tasks broken down so that he understands what's involved in them, and each of them is small. They try and incorporate the iPad and the sensory rooms and the things that he'll actually enjoy. They need to make tomorrow an enjoyable day, because if he goes in tomorrow and enjoys himself, he'll go back on Thursday. If he goes in tomorrow and hates it, he won't go back. No matter how much work we've done over the summer to get him there in the first place, they have one chance to show him that school isn't this horrible place he's been afraid of for 2 years, and that will blow it. To the point where I'm almost tempted not to send him in until they can prove to me that they have something in place specific to him. It needs to be broken down into stages. It needs to have constant reward, and it needs to have space in there for downtime. He needs to have timetabled escapes where he can go off to the safe space and just decompress. If we take him to Tesco, he needs to go and sit in his room for an hour just to rebalance himself after going through the stress of having to go to Tesco. They're asking him to do 6 hours of almost solid schoolwork with no rebalancing. So the absolute best, the best case scenario that could come out of that is he comes home having hated it, vomits in the taxi on the way home, or probably doesn't even get into it because they haven't told him he's doing it. He's just expecting to be at home, so he needs us to be there. So we'll get a phone call saying come and pick him up. He won't get in the taxi for some reason. Nobody knows. Well, you didn't tell him he was getting a taxi. And then he'll vomit, and then he'll go to bed for like 10 hours, and then he'll wake up at midnight, won't go back to sleep. He'll be too tired to go by the time Thursday comes around, and even if he wasn't too tired to go, he'll remember how horrible the day before was and refuse to go. That's all that is going to achieve, and I can't believe after 2 years this is the point that we're at. Fingers crossed we get this sorted out over the course of the day, and tomorrow's video is a little bit more positive and includes us taking him to school, getting him to school, and him having a good day at school, because if that's what tomorrow is going to be, I just don't even know where we go from here. Thanks for watching.